It's a lot of money we're talking about. 75,000 tickets over a 6-month period. Each ticket, that's $40, so do the math, more than $3 million. It happens more than you might think. Bus operators, train operators, assaulted on the job. Well, now they're trying to do something to stop it. I like to think of it as a game of chicken between the two parties, and right in the middle are all of these government workers just trying to figure out if they're going to work on Monday or if they're just going to stay home and watch Get Up DC. The Faith Palm. This sign popped up right outside of the new site for the St. Thomas's Parish. It's Jesus doing a faith palm with the words, "The president said what?" Absolutely devastated and heartbroken. That's how a lot of Nationals fans are feeling this morning after that horrible loss. Hey there guys, this is Evan Koslof. I'm here at Jacksonville Beach. I just want to show you some of the damage that we have right now. Mother Nature is just showing off right now. Look at this water right now. Look at how much white foam there is, and actually if we could get it, look at it rush over the dune into this swimming pool on the bottom floor of our condo. All right, so we all know that elephants are huge, but we want to show you just how big they are. And to do this, I'm going to need a little help. Help from more Evans, just like me and that guy over there. What we're going to do is a little experiment where we round my weight up to, say, 200 pounds, and then we show how many of us equals one elephant. And right out of the gate, we could tell you 3 of us is not going to be enough. Even 10 of us is not going to be enough to match one elephant. What we really need is 60 Evans. That is way too much Evan. I just heard him use the word nasty, and that was an accurate way to describe it as the sleet is coming through, and you could probably hear it a little bit, right? That wind. It's not comfortable to be out here. I want to talk a little bit about the consistency of this. This is what snow days are all about. We're joined by, there it is, we're joined by Emily, Ethan, and Yana. And they're 9, 13, and Emily, let's start with you. What's the snow day all about for you? I threw some water on this shirt here. Just look at this. Again, obvious science experiment here. When you're dealing with the temperatures being like this, things freeze pretty quickly. There's a lot of energy. We've got a lot of kids here, a lot of athletes, and we'll start with a quick question. Who's your favorite player in the NBA? Kevin Durant! Kevin Durant! Okay, that was a really easy question, right? So his name is Rob Jones, and he is really awesome. He's a veteran. He served in Iraq and then Afghanistan, and that's where his life changed forever.
What are you doing? You're sitting in a massage chair, aren't you?
Life could really be worse, guys. This is pretty nice. I think it's probably the most unique live shot I've ever done. Plus, this is Koslof, Evan Koslof. I'm talking about some spy gadgets. That's because the Spy Museum is tripling its size. Of all the details coming up in just a bit. Okay, so now I made it through the training, and now we get to do the really fun part. I'm gonna destroy this car. Let's do it. There we go, we got it. Hey there guys, the photojournalist I'm working with is a big hockey fan, so he convinced me to put on the skates. Terrible idea, because I'm probably gonna fall on my face, but if I don't, I could tell you about a few promotions that they're working on. First, let's talk numbers here. CVS Health is buying Aetna for $69 billion. That's as if they cut a check for $101,000 and gave it to every single resident of DC. She doesn't want us to panic. She says realistically, nobody is hacking your fridge because there's just not an incentive to do so. But what's so cool is that you could, video chat in from your cell phone if you want to. Literally anywhere where there's Wi-Fi, so you could go check on mom or dad, just, one of these guys right here. Her attitude was just infectious. I was sitting there and I was telling her, this is going to be a successful company, just because I could tell that you have the passion. So how about an updated count? Right now, she's received 72 donations for $3,800. And guys, talking about her emotions, of course she said she was angry, but mostly, like you heard her say, just grateful. Yeah. She's alive today. What I think is the coolest part, this was just sort of an empty storefront, and they transformed it. So they're painting the walls, they're putting up the exhibits that they want. They're completely making it their own.
I didn't know what was happening. I just didn't understand why he wasn't able to do the things that he used to be able to do.
As we sit here in her living room, Kathy Siggins hangs on to the memories. After all, that's all she has left of her late husband, Gene. The two met while working at the post office and quickly fell in love. March 30th, 1978, the two got married. These are the happy memories. A decade later, they would fade into a darker period. Gene was starting to forget things.
He would bring in wood and then he would feed the fire, feed the fire, feed the fire, and it was like, whoa, this is not good.
And so the two went to the doctor, only to get devastating news.
And they said, Mr. Siggins, you have Alzheimer's, and we strongly recommend that you get your affairs in order.
From there, things quickly got worse. As he started forgetting, Kathy stopped being his wife and became a caregiver.
The husband that I had was no longer there. He took pride in being a good provider for his family, and he did well. And to watch him go from there to like my child, that was hard.
For 10 years, Kathy lived in this purgatory of sorts, caring for her husband and watching him fade. On January 24th, 1999, Gene passed away.
When he died, it was like I felt that there was a reason why we were taken on this journey, and that it wasn't supposed to die with him.
And so began Kathy's new role, not as a victim or a widow, but as an advocate, telling her story and raising money for Alzheimer's research. But one achievement has always eluded her. This is the semi-postal breast cancer stamp. In 20 years, it's raised more than $86 million. So Kathy thought, why not get one of these for Alzheimer's? For 18 years, she's been pushing for it, collecting some 85,000 signatures. And yet for 18 years, she's been told no.
I was told no an awful lot of times, you know, and the disappointment. I went through a lot of disappointment each time people would say no.
Disappointment for her husband, and disappointment for hundreds of families going through this. Finally, this year, it happened. The Postal Service finally said yes. The stamp is now a reality.
It was like this weight had been lifted. After 18 years of waiting for this call, our family there.
In the years since Gene's death, a lot has changed for Kathy. She's remarried and has found peace in her husband's death. But she says her rigor and passion for advocacy is as strong as it was 18 years ago.
If we don't talk about this disease, no one will ever know what it's like to live it.
All right, so this story, obviously very personal for me. My family, like many, has been touched by the disease. So just taking off that journalist hat and speaking to you as a person, I urge you to go ahead, buy these stamps right here, 60 cents per stamp. So I bought these 20 stamps for just $12, but it really can make a difference. We've all been there before. You're driving down the road and then you see that flash of doom. You got yourself a speeding ticket, but you're definitely not alone. We decided to look at the numbers and just look at what we found. Last year, they collected some $170 million from speeding cameras, and in a 7-month period this year, the latest data they're giving us, they've collected some $87 million already. But we wanted to find the top hotspots, the places where you really want to slow down. While I keep driving, take a look at the map. Well, here we are, the biggest speed traps in the city. They've gotten me more than once. Number 5 on the list is at South Capitol Street, right next to the Nats Stadium. Listen to this, close to $5 million collected on this southbound camera. And this is what the camera looks like from down on the ground. As you can see, it's facing the southbound lane. But here's where it gets really interesting. If you look behind me, there's another camera that's facing the northbound lane. And while this one did not make the top 5, it is ranked number 7, bringing in another $4 million. So that means right here at this stretch of road, that's $9 million being brought in. Slow down when you're going by Nats Stadium. Meanwhile, stop number 4 takes us right here to K Street by 25th Street. Why don't we show you the exterior camera so you can get a real good look at this camera. It's that one, right there on the left. And man, this has gone a lot of money. So far in that 7-month period, $5.5 million has been collected. That's a lot.
It says photo enforced. It's the yellow sign, which is typical.
While in Foggy Bottom, we decided to pick up Councilmember Mary Che. Earlier this year, she wrote this letter to DDOT asking them to look at all of DC's speed cameras to find out if they're speed traps.
If the signage isn't working, I also wanted to know, well, maybe something else should work, because the ultimate objective here is not to give tickets, it's to have people drive within the speed limit and also not run red lights.
Now let's go to number 3 on the list. It takes us to 295 southbound as you head towards Maryland. About a mile south of exit 1, you'll find this camera. Here's a look from another camera angle. And I'll tell you, this camera got a whole lot of people. Nearly 41,000 tickets in this 7-month period for a whopping $6.3 million. That's a whole lot of cheddar. Meanwhile, number 2 on the list takes us back to Foggy Bottom to a very familiar sight. It's K Street, once again, literally across the street from number 4 on our list. The westbound camera this time has brought in more than 45,000 tickets, adding nearly $7 million in fines. And that brings us to number 1 on the list. It's this guy right here at 600 Kenilworth Avenue. And this one's made an absolute killing. It's given away 64,000 tickets for $11 million, again, in just 7 months. Here's what's confusing about it. It's not even facing Route 295. It's facing this side road. And when you look at it from the driver's perspective, things get even more confusing. When coming up to the camera, you do see that 25 miles per hour sign, but then as you get closer, you see the 50 mile per hour sign. That's for the highway, but very easy to think it's for you. So there you go, the top 5 locations in the city where you really need to slow down. Do you want to see where in your neighborhood some of these cameras are? Well, now you can. We put the entire list on our website, WUSA9.com. So take a look, find out where your neighbors have been caught the most. All right, so we really do urge you to go look online because that map is really interactive and it's really awesome, and our web team spent a whole lot of time. It's not often that you could reach out and touch something roughly 100 years old, but that's exactly what we're doing today. Right now we're in Mallows Bay, we're kayaking, we're exploring what's the largest ship graveyard in the entire Western Hemisphere. It's pretty spectacular. Take a look. We are off.
There you go. All right.
Our voyage begins on the bank of the Potomac.
What a perfect morning.
It's a beautiful, serene day, and we're traveling by kayak. I'm in one, photographer Mike Furr is in the other, along with our guide, Judy Lathrop. Oh yeah, Judy brought her dogs Ollie and Casper along as well.
So you can see some of the pins that are just below the surface. Yep, so you don't want to run onto those. Right under here.
In just minutes, we started to see the remnants of what was to come. More than 100 ships are scrapped and abandoned here from World War I.
It's when you get up close to them and you can touch them and look closely at them that it really becomes powerful.
Lo and behold, it didn't take long before we found some ships. Just look at these. A century has gone by, but their shape is still there.
And it's kind of neat because the cedars kind of punctuate the sides of the hull. See the 2 cedars on either side?
An entire ship transformed into a makeshift island and a habitat for wildlife. Take beavers, for example.
Here, they've actually built their lodge right on one of the wrecks. So they've used the frame of this 100-year-old ship as the platform for their lodge.
Now, one question you might have is, how did these boats get here in the first place? Well, after World War I, it would have been too expensive to remove these gigantic ships from the water, so they chose to dump them here. Since then, they've been ransacked, pillaged, and looted countless times, first during the Great Depression, and then again during World War II. Still, these ships remain.
It's very powerful to me when you think there are, about 150 wrecks here. And the effort that it took to make these.
And so we continued our journey through Mallows Bay, not only looking to the past, but perhaps reflecting on the present.
And that's what this is all about, just sitting here quietly, touching it and thinking about it. And it just and facing this way with the birds and the osprey. And you can think about what it was like 100 years ago.
With no plans to quit my job anytime soon, Evan Koslof, WUSA 9.